Ready to step off the map from the most hidden alleyways to the stories nobody told you? Uncharted Alleyways begins now. Your definitive guide and travel podcast, culture, adventure, and the world as you've never heard it. Tune in, disconnect from the obvious, and come explore with us. Uncharted Alleyways, your next trip starts here.
So imagine walking out of a cafe in, one of the most chaotic, densely populated cities on Earth.
Right.
And you just step over a stray dog that's sleeping right in the middle of a busy sidewalk.
Just right in the way.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of someone calling animal control or, shooing it away, you watch a local shopkeeper gently step around it. Maybe they even, place a small bowl of water near its head and then just go back to their day.
It completely shatters how we usually think about urban spaces, doesn't it? I mean, in most major metropolises, that dog is a problem to be solved.
Right. It's a hazard or a nuisance.
Exactly. But in the city we're exploring today, that dog is just, a neighbor catching a nap.
Okay, let's unpack this because this isn't your standard travel itinerary. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone.
So glad you're here with us.
Yeah, if you are booking a flight right now, or even just, daydreaming about a trip,
Yeah.
you're probably agonizing over this hyper-optimized checklist.
Oh, totally. The spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet? You want to conquer the map. But today, we are throwing that checklist entirely out the window.
You really are.
We've got this fascinating stack of travel notes and research about Istanbul, the city where Europe and Asia meet. And we aren't just going to run down a list of ancient palaces or marble monuments.
No, not at all.
We're looking at what actually makes this city tick, from everyday kindness to, the furry faces that seem to basically run the streets.
Which is exactly what makes delving into this research so rewarding. What we have here is really a masterclass in how to experience a destination, not just what to see.
Yeah, the how versus the what.
Exactly. When you strip away the pressure of that tourist itinerary, you start to notice that the true architecture of Istanbul isn't just made of stone.
Right.
It is built out of everyday routines. It's in the neighborhood food, the daily commute across the water, the way people interact with their environment. That is where the actual life of the city happens.
And I mean, if we're talking about the life of the city, we have to start with those furry faces I just mentioned.
The best part.
Right. What blew my mind going through this material is that to understand the true fabric of Istanbul's community, you actually have to look beyond its human residents. You have to look at the animals, specifically the cats. I mean, they are absolutely everywhere in these notes.
Literally everywhere.
The sources describe them curled up in bookstore windows, lounging on cafe chairs, sleeping beneath market stalls, and just chilling at the ferry docks.
Yeah, they really own the place.
They totally do. You'll find them napping peacefully inside shops, inside museums, and right outside the entrances to these massive historic landmarks.
And they aren't just tolerated, which is the key distinction here.
Right.
They are accepted as an intrinsic, vital part of the city. Shopkeepers routinely place bowls of food and fresh water outside their doors.
Just as a standard practice.
Yeah, and residents actively build small shelters to protect them from the winter rain and the cold.
But wait, how does this actually work practically? Because I'm thinking, if they are street cats, who is paying for the food or taking care of them if they get sick?
Right, is it just random acts of kindness?
Yeah, exactly. Is it just individuals being nice?
Well, it's actually much more structured than just random kindness. It is a decentralized network of care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, veterinarians and local volunteers work in tandem to keep them healthy. Many neighborhood cats are vaccinated and cared for by the actual communities where they live. They just, pool their resources.
That is wild. It's like this massive open-air, citywide co-op where millions of people are collectively raising the exact same pets.
That's a great way to put it.
Because no one asks, whose cat is that? They just belong to Istanbul, and Istanbul belongs to them. So what does this all mean? Is this just a city of absolute animal lovers? Or does this decentralized care reveal a totally different definition of what community even means?
What's fascinating here is the sociological nuance of that exact dynamic. Because these animals aren't strays in the traditional sense that you or I might think of.
Right, they aren't pests.
Exactly, they are civic participants. If we connect this to the bigger picture, how a society treats its free-roaming, vulnerable animals really reflects its capacity for collective empathy.
Wow.
In Istanbul, the community takes shared responsibility, and it absolutely extends to the dogs, too.
Yeah, the visual of the dogs in this research is so striking to me. Unlike in a lot of places where a stray dog might be viewed with fear,
Or at least caution.
right, caution.
Yeah.
But here, these dogs are completely respected, they are calm, they're gentle, and they're totally accustomed to living alongside people. But how do people know they are safe? Like if you're visiting, how do you know?
That's where the city's infrastructure comes in. You'll notice in the research that many of these dogs wear brightly colored ear tags.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and those tags signify that they are part of a community animal care program, so they've been vaccinated, they are monitored, and they are protected.
I love the detail on the notes that morning commuters actually recognize the same dogs on their walk to work every day.
Yes.
You just rest in the parks or near the really busy ferry terminals, and they're totally unfazed by the chaos of the city. They're literally neighbors.
They are neighbors, and they dictate a certain rhythm to daily life, you know?
Mhm.
There is a very poignant piece of advice for visitors in these sources, which is that you must respect these animals.
Give them their space.
Right. If a cat chooses to sit beside you while you drink your tea, that is a small gift from the city.
I love that.
If a dog is sleeping on a bench, you just let it sleep. You can share the bench, but you remember that they are living creatures. They're not tourist attractions.
Yeah.
It's an exercise in decentering yourself as a traveler. You are a guest in their home, not the other way around.
That mindset, like letting the city dictate the terms rather than imposing your will on it, is exactly what you need for the next major piece of advice we found.
Oh, absolutely.
It completely flips how you're supposed to experience time in the city, especially during the daily ritual of the sunset. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because the instinct for anyone visiting a new city is to find the highest point in the historic center.
Always.
Right. You want to surround yourself with 100 other people holding their cameras up and try to capture the skyline.
Exactly. You want to be right in the middle of the famous landmarks when the golden light hits them.
Right. But this research says to actively avoid the crowded historic center viewpoints at sunset.
Skip it entirely.
Yeah. Instead, they tell you to take a ferry over to the Asian side of the city, like the neighborhood of Kadikoy, or just find a quiet stretch of shoreline. Okay, so for those of us trying to visualize the map right now, when you say cross over to the Asian side, how massive of a body of water are we talking about?
So we are talking about the Bosphorus Strait.
Okay.
It is the literal dividing line between the continents of Europe and Asia. Yeah, it's a massive, bustling waterway right through the heart of the city. It's not, an ocean crossing, but it's a significant, incredibly scenic ferry ride.
All right.
And it physically removes you from the European side where the bulk of the ancient, iconic, historic landmarks are located.
Which brings me to the sensory details of doing this. Because reading about it, they are just incredible. You cross this strait, you order a glass of hot Turkish tea, and you just sit facing the water, looking back at Europe. And the sky slowly transforms into these incredible shades of gold, orange, pink, and deep blue. You are looking back at the European skyline, and all those famous domes and minarets are just glowing in this fading light.
It's stunning.
And you have ferries constantly crossing the water, seagulls circling overhead, and then the call to prayer begins echoing. And because of the acoustics over the water, it blends from multiple neighborhoods at once.
Yeah, it's not just one sound.
No, it's this massive multi-sensory experience that makes the whole city feel like it's slowing down. It's honestly like hitting the mute button on your own internal rush.
That is a brilliant analogy, the mute button.
Yeah.
Because the city itself hasn't actually become quieter or slower. I mean, the ferries are still churning the water. Millions of people are still rushing home from work.
Right, it's still rush hour.
Exactly. But you have stopped trying to keep up with it. You've intentionally stepped out of the current.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
If you are traveling to Istanbul and the most famous, iconic skyline with the major historical architecture is on the European side, why leave it during the most beautiful time of day?
Right.
Doesn't that feel like you're walking away from the main event, like you're missing out?
Well, it seems counterintuitive until you understand the mechanics of perspective. Think about it. If you are standing directly underneath a massive monument, what do you actually see?
A wall, I guess.
Exactly. You see a wall, you see the crowd of people bumping into you.
Oh,
By removing yourself from the center of the action and crossing the Bosphorus, you become a witness to the whole panorama. You get to see the silhouette of the city as a complete canvas.
Oh, I see.
This research emphasizes a core philosophy, which is that travel is about noticing more, not just seeing more.
Noticing more.
Right. When you are caught in the crowd in the historic center, your brain is frantic. When you are sitting on the Asian shore with a warm glass of tea in your hand, watching the ferries glide by and listening to the call to prayer echo over the water, you are fully present.
Yeah, you aren't rushing.
You are noticing the city exist rather than trying to aggressively consume it.
Okay, consume it is the exact right phrase. But I guess you can't reach that Zen state of observation if you're physically exhausted from, like, sprinting between landmarks in the wrong shoes.
Definitely not.
Navigating this city practically requires a total shift in your mindset. And there's some very practical tips in the sources here that set the stage for all of this. First off, wear comfortable shoes.
Yes, please.
Istanbul is famously hilly, and it's built on these steep inclines and endless cobblestone streets.
Yes. The physical toll of the city is very real. Those cobblestones are completely unforgiving.
And you should be relying heavily on public transport. The trams, the metro, the buses, and especially those ferries we just talked about. Wait, the ferries are actually part of the public transit system. Because I always assumed ferries in major tourist cities were just, overpriced sightseeing traps.
Usually they are.
Right. So how does that practically work for a local commuter?
That's the beauty of it here. They are a deeply integrated part of the daily commute. For locals, taking the ferry from the Asian side to the European side for work is as normal as taking the subway in New York or London.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
But for you, the visitor, it doubles as one of the most breathtaking sightseeing experiences you can have, and it costs a fraction of a private tour. You are quite literally riding alongside the daily life of the city.
That is so smart. The notes also heavily emphasize mosque etiquette, which is crucial if you want to respectfully move through these spaces.
Extremely important, yes.
You need to dress respectfully. So, lightweight clothing covering shoulders and knees. Women should carry a scarf to cover their hair, though the sources say many popular mosques do provide coverings for visitors if you happen to forget.
Right, they are very accommodating.
And in the warmer months, always carry a reusable water bottle. But all of these practical tips, like the shoes, the transit, the scarves, they are really just a setup for the ultimate piece of advice.
The big one.
The absolute golden rule of this deep dive: do not try to see everything. Istanbul is not a city you conquer with a checklist.
Which is a remarkably hard truth for modern travelers to accept, isn't it?
Oh, incredibly hard.
We are deeply conditioned to want a measurable return on our investment, and we usually measure that return in the number of landmarks we've crossed off our list.
Okay, I have to push back on this because I totally get the philosophy of the slow traveler. I really do. But let's talk about the modern reality of travel anxiety.
Let's do it.
Look, if you've spent thousands of dollars on flights, you've begged your boss for precious time off work, and you flew across the world, human nature screams at you to conquer that checklist.
It really does.
You want to see the things you've read about in history books your whole life. How do you actually let go of the fear of missing out? Like, how do you mentally justify just sitting and drinking tea when there's a world-famous 1,000-year-old palace 3 blocks away that you haven't seen yet?
This raises an important question, and it's one that gets to the very psychology of why we travel.
Right.
It's the fundamental difference between seeking a dopamine hit and forming a long-term memory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The fear of missing out assumes that the absolute value of your trip is locked inside that palace or that museum. You want the photograph to prove to yourself and maybe to social media that you were there.
Totally guilty of that.
We all are. But checking a box doesn't actually create a lasting memory in your brain.
Right, because you're just stressed about getting to the next box.
Exactly. When you look back on a trip 5 or 10 years later, your brain rarely recalls the exact architectural dates of a building.
Never.
What you remember is sensory and emotional. You remember the sound of the tea glasses gently clinking together in that neighborhood cafe.
Oh, yeah.
You remember the smell of fresh bread drifting from a bakery before sunrise. You remember watching the fishermen cast their lines into the misty Bosphorus on your morning commute. Or, you remember that specific orange cat that decided your lap looked like the perfect place for an afternoon nap?
Yes, the orange cat.
Right. If you are running frantically from landmark to landmark, you are completely blind to those subtle, unscripted moments. You have to actively leave room in your schedule for unexpected discoveries. And crucially, you have to leave yourself a reason to come back.
Leave yourself a reason to come back. I absolutely love that. Because if you do it right, you will absolutely want to.
Without a doubt.
And what's fascinating is that cultivating this exact mindset, this slow, observant, patient style of travel that Istanbul demands, it perfectly prepares you for a totally different kind of destination.
Yes, it does.
This research teases a second location at the very end, and it is a massive pivot.
It really is. The transition from the ultimate urban environment to something truly ancient and elemental.
It is such an immense contrast. We are talking about leaving this bustling, human-built city of empires, markets, and waterfronts and heading deeper into Turkey to a landscape that sounds straight out of a science fiction novel.
Cappadocia.
Cappadocia. We are talking about valleys that have been entirely carved by wind and time, towering, unimaginable rock formations, and ancient underground cities that are literally hidden beneath the earth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a brilliant progression of how to look at the world.
How so?
Well, Istanbul teaches you how to observe humanity. It forces you to slow down, sit on a bench, watch the ferries, and understand the intricate social web of a community that cares for its street dogs and cats. It teaches you to appreciate the present moment of human existence. But a place like Cappadocia, that teaches you how to observe deep time.
Deep time. That's exactly what it feels like in the notes. Because you are looking at an environment where history, geology, and human imagination just collide.
Completely.
When the sources talk about these underground cities, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
Like, we aren't just talking about a few shallow caves, right?
Not at all. We are talking about massive, multi-level subterranean complexes.
Why?
Because the volcanic rock in that region is relatively soft, ancient peoples were able to literally carve entire cities down into the earth to hide from invaders and survive harsh climates.
It's hard to even wrap your head around.
Right. You have kitchens, stables, and ventilation shafts all carved out of the rock. It is geology on a scale that makes our modern human history look like a blink of an eye. You are standing inside a structure where the earth itself was the building material.
It makes you feel very small, but in the most awe-inspiring way possible. And then you contrast that deep subterranean history with the visual that everyone knows from this region, the colorful hot air balloons rising up into the dawn sky.
Yeah, it's iconic.
You have this incredibly rugged, ancient, earth-toned landscape, and above it, hundreds of these bright, silent balloons floating over the valleys at sunrise.
Precisely. The contrast is breathtaking. But here is why this perfectly follows the lessons of Istanbul.
Okay, why?
Both environments, despite being so wildly different, demand the exact same skill from you. They require you to step back, abandon your frantic agenda, and simply be present.
Ah, I see.
If you go to Cappadocia with a checklist mentality, rushing down into an underground city just to snap a photo and say you did it, you miss the profound weight of where you are standing.
Right.
You miss the silence of the valleys. You miss the incredible scale of time.
It really all comes back to that central idea of noticing versus just seeing. You have to let the place happen to you.
Let it happen to you, yes.
Okay, let's bring this all together for you listening, because we've covered a lot of ground today. We've learned that a city's true soul isn't always found in its marble monuments. In Istanbul, it's reflected in the profound, collective empathy shown to its street dogs and cats,
Very much so.
and how the community takes shared responsibility for them. We learned the immense value of changing your perspective, literally, by crossing the Bosphorus to the Asian side to watch the sunset, hitting that mute button on your own internal rush.
Such a crucial step.
We've talked about why you need to practically prepare with good shoes and public ferries, but more importantly, why you need to metaphorically burn your travel checklists to actually absorb the sensory memories that last.
Ditch the checklist.
Ditch it. And finally, we caught a glimpse of how this slow travel mindset perfectly prepares you for the mind-bending, deep-time landscapes of places like the underground cities and wind-carved valleys of Cappadocia.
And it is so important to recognize that these lessons aren't just isolated tips for a trip to Turkey. They offer a comprehensive framework for how we absorb the world around us. In an era of intense information overload, where we are constantly pressured by social media to see it all and document every waking moment, adopting this mindset is how we protect our capacity for wonder.
Protect our capacity for wonder.
It's about choosing depth over breadth.
Choosing depth over breadth.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better. Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
We've talked a lot about decentering yourself, about slowing down, and about letting go of the fear of missing out when you are thousands of miles from home. But if shedding that checklist mentality is the ultimate key to unlocking the magic of a sprawling, chaotic city like Istanbul, how much of the magic in your own hometown are you missing right now simply because you're trying to keep up with the rush instead of sitting down to notice the rhythm?
A great question to ponder.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep asking questions, stay open to the unexpected, and we will see you next time.